right, welcome to the second title of the evening. This is Never Alone, the Arctic Collection. So I guess a bit of history on the release of this game before we'll get into the what it is. Never Alone came out initially in 2014 for, let's see, trying to remember if like PlayStation 4 and Xbox One were there or later, but it's released for PC and consoles at the time, and indeed eventually got a Wii U release. Though I'm mentioning this here because the designation Arctic Collection, which is the complete package, because I think I'm trying to remember if it was like 9 months, a year, sometime after it got a DLC package called Foxtails. And, like on Steam, you can still buy the original Never Alone independent, and you can get the Foxtails attached to that. Because the Never Alone Switch port is new, like just came out a few months ago, the default package is the Arctic Collection. So it's got the Foxtails DLC included for no extra cost here. So yeah, there is actually a bit of a price discrepancy, but it's also, there is a content discrepancy because as we've mentioned several times before, soundtracks don't tend to come out on the consoles, which is something that you can do on Steam. I'll get to the breakdown when we get to pricing and all that, but do want to head that up, that if you do buy on the Switch, you'll be getting the Arctic Collection as the base, the base purchase.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as what Never Alone is, it is a 2D puzzle platformer with an infusion of indigenous people learning. Experience the epic journey of Nuna and Fox as they search for the source of an internal blizzard that threatens the survival of everything that they have ever known. Never Alone is an atmospheric puzzle platformer developed in collaboration with the Inupiat, an Alaska Native people, drawn from a traditional story that has been shared across generations. And what I remember specifically from the initial release of the game is like, this was like the first title that was like 100% done by native Alaskans, if you will. Like, don't remember if that was 100% native developers or was just the collaboration there. But, this is one part, puzzle platformer, 2 parts teaching tool about the Inupiat culture. Like, because, interspersed throughout the game is various, not just the story here, but various facets of their culture and their way of life and all that sort of thing. And I do remember picking this game up and playing it some years ago. And from what I can remember, it's a good basic platform game. Like, it's really less about the platforming and more about the story and the narrative conveyance, which I think we mentioned this. Yeah, mentioned this with some 3D platformers we've covered. That's always an unusual tack to take with a platform game, because platform games aren't really known for conveyance of story and narrative and things of that nature. So points for originality, if nothing else, because you'd expect a walking simulator or something like that, or a point and click adventure game. Not really a platformer. Also worth noting, this game does have co-op, but local only, and we only got one code anyway. So,
Yep.
I do not expect co-op to be factored into this review. So, with that in mind, Petty, take it away.
Honestly, this game kind of plays a lot like Limbo, only without the horror elements.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's not a surprise.
Minus if you're particularly afraid of freezing to death in the Arctic.
I mean, to each their own.
Once again, that's not surprising, because much like how Limbo was less about the gameplay and more about the atmosphere and the experience, it's a very different experience, but that's what they're going for here. Now, like, this isn't a Mario platformer or a Sonic platformer. This is a platformer designed to give you conveyance of a culture.
Right. And yeah.
So,
I guess by design, the controls are kind of slow. Because,
yes.
trudging through the Arctic. And yeah, it's basically a journey on this girl and this fox she met while she was running away from a polar bear that basically saved her. Yeah. And the little girl comes back to her village to find shit's gone screwy and is trying to figure out, where her people went, what the hell happened, so on and so forth. Co-op, you can have one person control each of the characters. On single player, you obviously can only control one, and the AI does their best to follow. But there are still some obstacles the AI just won't even attempt to take care of, so you have to switch between them.
Okay, so you can switch between them.
Yes, you switch between them on... Switch is with the X button. And then, you hold B to kind of crouch down and brace for wind so you don't get blown away. Obviously, if you fall in the water, that's bad.
Yeah, cold water is no good.
Yeah, literally frozen water. Generally, humans don't like that. And yeah, as far as like different abilities go, the fox is a lot more agile and can kind of activate spirits, which are the white, I guess, monster almost looking things, but they don't hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
And the fox can also climb up walls. Later on, the girl gets I think it's like a bowline or something like that. It's basically like two rocks and it's connected with a string that's like a throwing weapon. And I will say the controls for that is god awful, because what they want you to do is pull the right stick back and then try and aim and flick it forward to throw, and that it's just awful. Like, it is one of the worst controls, I guess, ways to do that I think I've ever seen. I would much rather have, had the aim and throw on a shoulder button than try and manipulate the joystick like that. As far as music goes, unfortunately, if there is music, it's pretty quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And because of all the fans I've been having going, I hadn't really been able to hear it. So it could be good, it could be bad. I can't really tell. One interesting aspect is all the voiced dialogue is in the Inuit language. So that's kind of interesting. And then there's also a thing called, cultural insights, which are movies like about the culture, about the development, stuff like that. Though I don't know if it's just the way it was compressed for the Switch version, but they don't look super great. You'd almost be better looking these up online. But yeah, any questions?
Did you get to the Foxtails DLC?
I did not, unfortunately. I just saw that and didn't know what that was, so.
Yeah. I suppose it doesn't really matter with the Switch version because it's not optional here.
Mm.
Like, because, yeah, the Foxtails is a new tale in the spring. And, it's a DLC pack, as you'd expect. Basically, exploring more Native American culture and doing all the things you were doing in Never Alone. But like I said, this is a factor in pricing because on most systems it came out standalone, and the base price of Never Alone on like Steam and what have you is $14.99. And the Foxtails DLC was $3.99. There is a bundle here for $17.99. The Arctic Collection. Let's see what they did there.
Yeah.
But the Steam version has Foxtails DLC and a free soundtrack, which is otherwise $8. You want to purchase it standalone on Steam. So going over to the Switch version, this is $15 base price. So it's slightly cheaper. Because the Fox, it's such a late port in the sense that the Switch didn't exist at the time when this got released. I'm just not sure why they chose to port it to the Switch, this game to the Switch in 2022 when, this could have shown up in like 2017. But I suppose that would be up to the publisher to tell us that.
Yeah.
Anyway. But, is this game worth $15?
15 probably not. Like sub 10, sure. But the controls are a little too clunky for me personally to recommend it at 15.
I think that's where I ended up when I played this game back in the day. Like, it was okay-ish, but I found it kind of clumsy and, honestly, I thought it was more interested in being a teaching tool than being a fun video game. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I think I would have liked this better as a narrative adventure game rather than a platformer. Just to soak in the actual story and the cultural elements, because that was clearly the focus here.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I said, the gameplay, from what I remember and from what I see here, this is solid basic stuff. But if you switch this to something that was just conveying the story, and you were wandering through the snow, I don't think it would have missed anything either. Would you say so, Petty?
Yeah, probably not.
Okay. All right, so I think that'll about do it for Never Alone here. Be sure to tune in after the break, as the Galax will be reviewing Spelunking: The Mind Match.